Hello, everybody, and welcome to our November edition of Transforming with Poetry. As you can see, we have a number of poets participating today. Really interesting work. We hope you enjoyed, whether you watch this live on Facebook or whether you watch this in YouTube afterwards. I'm going to start with Robert Haynes. Robert is presenting today his book, Heidegger Looks at the Moon. And I like to say, first of all, hello to Robert, but let my friend, poet Robin Ouzman Hislop, to introduce the work of Robert, and then we'll have an opportunity to listen to some of these wonderful poems. Hello, Robin, how are you?
I'm fine, I'm here, ready to go.
Fantastic. So tell us something about Robert.
We're just going to put up the link of PLT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is a Poetry Live Sometimes. I'm going to press share now. And Robin has kindly published a review of Robert's book, Heidegger Looks at the Moon. And this is where we will be also showing the poems as Robert reads them. Okay, Robin, the floor is yours.
Not on my screen. There's something else on my screen at the moment. You're not showing the PLT link.
Okay, here it is. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now, yeah. So this is fine. So just a word or two before. Can you scroll down a bit, Tony, so that we can get to the text? All right, right. All right, so actually, I mean, Robert is an old friend of ours at PLT, Poetry, Life and Times. And this is one of his latest books. He's had two others, The Radar Light and what was it? Let the Whales
Escape.
Let the Whales Escape, yeah. So anyway, and also that Robert's also featured here several times. But with reference to this latest work, Heidegger Looks at the Moon, there's already been very brilliant reviews written about it, which I'm rather envious of. And so it's been a bit problematic about what kind of review I was going to write for him. So I was going to write a review basically that introduces him to our readers at Poetry, Life and Times. And so that's what I'll start with just now. Can you scroll down a bit, Tony, so that I can read the text? Right, that's fine. Okay. Heidegger Looks at the Moon is the latest volume of poetry by R.W. Haynes, who is well known to us at PLT, Poetry, Life and Times, where, as well as having been interviewed, his various previous works, as well as his poems, have been hosted. Haynes is an individual of many abilities, a scholar of Greek language. He is versed in the classics, a playwright, novelist, a biographer of the Texan playwright Horton Foote, and poet. He teaches at AMN, International University of Texas, Laredo, USA, where he's been a lecturer for the last 30 years in Anglo-Saxon literature, dramatics in Chaucer, Shakespeare, Ibsen plays, amongst other activities. There is a bio at the end where you can see more information about that. It is not surprising, perhaps, that in his poetics, well, it is not surprising, perhaps, that his poetics are in the classicist metric style and form. Almost inevitably, I find, we see, surreptitiously appearing in the verses, a tightening of form in Shakespearean vogue. I think he will be the first one to admit that he is almost in bondage to the sonnet and drawn by the fascination and challenge of being able to render a vast scope of vision into such a compact and condensed form. Also, what we learn from Haynes, is his overwhelming admiration for theatre, but more so for the actual actors who perform theatre, where he says he literally stands in awe and reverence of them as artists in their medium. I mention this because it is reflected, I believe, in his works as a poet, which introduces many varied persona as mediums for his poetic voice. Of course, both history and place, he is from the Deep South, USA, figure extensively in his writing. An example features in his sonnet, Downtown Wacko, Midnight, Heidegger looks at the moon, in its opening line, the Bush Library really ought to be here. Apparently Wacko was on the list, but it got removed to Dallas. The loss of the library was the worst blow to hit the city since 1953 Wacko tornado killed 114 people, he comments in another text. According to Haynes, as I understand it, he views emotive conflicts as the condition of the human species over time as intrinsic to their existence. Passion, love, hate, grief, despair, from antiquity to the present he regards, are fundamental in the human makeup. And his poems intensify in contemporary idiom and context this phenomenon, sometimes with irony, sometimes with humor, sometimes with compassion. Having said all that, I would add that his poems by no means make for easy reading. If the reader believes it can just pick up the volume and flippantly peruse it for a couple of hours and come away gratified, it's in for another think. It is a work that you have to go back to again and again. These are poems that demand you give them attention, that you work at them, because in their own genre, they are masterfully crafted. I personally found in reading them that just at the moment you feel most comfortable with the verses, stanzas, you're saying to yourself, yes, I'm with it. What appears to be a harmless, snug line tucked away in a stanza rivets you with its complexity and plunges you into new depths, which is what a poem should do, in my opinion. The very title, Heidegger looks at the moon. Heidegger is a complex philosopher, and Haynes believes that poetry should be philosophical. In this, I share his viewpoint. He believes in the etymology of the word Sophia as the love of wisdom, a hope which I would also like to share in. Heidegger thought of humans as linguistic beings. Language is the house of being, in brackets. He also feared that language could be our own entrapment, that the way we spoke about a certain object or event made it into what it was and also alienated us from what it really is. This, of course, is a great simplification, but I think I could say that his concern was that instead of talking about nature, we end up only talking about ourselves, which prevents us from being activated acted upon or impacted by anything, and in which we become the living dead, to quote. This is only to say, without being specifically Heideggerian, that if we are to think of philosophy wisdom as the task of poetry, it could be to awaken us from this Anthropocene epoch, which sees the environment as its own, by the use of poetic language to recover the world which is ours and to which we belong. Haynes' poetry in its idiom, both ancient and modern, in its scope and intensity, its range of variety and mood, in its quest, is perhaps a kindling beacon towards this lost light. Okay, that's
excellent. Thank you so much, Robin.
Happy to do that.
Thank you. Fantastic, wonderful. After reading this wonderful review, I cannot help it but asking Robert something about his conception of language in poetry and in human communication, because there seems to be a lot of interesting nuances there in what Robin was saying. Language as a way of discovery, language as a way of alienation. Robert, when you think about language and how language is going to build reality and uncover reality, but also hide reality with a veil of literature and beauty. What is your take? How do you see language?
Well, that's one of those questions that leads us into almost infinite dialogue, right? We face the nature of language, I think, in much the same way that we face the nature of music. And when I talk to my students about poetry, which is sometimes a difficult matter for them to reconcile themselves to, and you point out such things as we speak with rhythm, just as musicians play instruments with rhythm. We speak with pitch, right? We can growl, we can whisper, we can roar, we can shriek, right? We can do all of these things which have a musical dimension toward them. And I've never really been a philosopher in the academic sense. My older brother was in a doctoral program in philosophy for a while, but I believe it was his study that drove me away from from further contemplation of issues of language, because it seemed to me that in many cases the people who were investigating the nature of language were engaging in a kind of a circular process, a process which reminded me a great deal of what hamsters do in their cages as they get on those rotating wheels and continue on and on. And I think that one of the things that language offers us is it offers us some of the potential of music, some of the promise for perhaps an escape from that fatal circularity that language study seems to me to draw many people into.
Wonderful. Shall we see three of your poems? These are poems that Robin and you have selected for Poetry 11 Times. Audience at home can read as Robert reads. I don't know if you can read. Can it be read properly on your screens?
It's fine on my screen.
Fantastic.
I have a text here too, so
Fantastic.
All right.
So yeah, let's listen to them. Yeah. Thank you, Robert.
Right. The first poem here is titled Downtown Waco, Midnight. Heidegger looks at the moon. The Bush Library really should be here, for each dead city needs a laugh or two, a little something, so the skeletons can jeer on nights like this when there's little to do and nothing to haunt but the haunting lack of hope, where words are born to sputter anxiously toward brief life in some half-bungled trope, irrecoverable etymologically. Is there another cyclone on its way to remix this desperation here, to make words and deeds mutually obey a dim correspondence, never more clear than the misshapen moon cruising so high over the Brazos in the hopeless Waco sky? And I think Robin attached a photo of the cover of the book, which is a little bit further above, right?
Yeah, we have it here, yeah.
And that's a dark page. I wasn't quite sure of what to do with the cover, but it's a dark room with the moonlight coming through a window and little slats of light showing through the shade. And perhaps that gives a little bit of a different dimension than the actual rather I don't know, what should I say, the mood of the first two lines with that reference to a laugh or two needed, right? I think that's something that perhaps that dark cover works against a little bit, but maybe in a good way. I don't know if you all know where anything about Waco, Texas, aside from the terrible disaster that occurred there a few years ago with a religious group being attacked or having a confrontation with FBI, and lots of deaths that resulted. There was also in 1916, there was a terrible lynching case in Waco called the Waco Horror, a spectacular, brutal lynching there that was unfortunately typical of some of the misconduct at that time. Waco's about halfway between Austin and Dallas, Texas. The second poem. Cleghorn resists the various swirls of evil. The preposition shudders politely when a cutthroat solipsist invites it in and shyly declines his invitations to join his murdered nominalizations. His cold intransitive redundancies pickled in glass, words that neither please nor move, motionless as the center of pain and a sinking island sunk in a hurricane. Why, sir, she whispers, I didn't mean to win, but ever since William of Normandy came in, I've gathered force, and alas, your frantic dream to drown the world in a fantastic stream has withered, and you are no longer strong. Believe me, sir, follow the lemmings along. So wrote Mr. Cleghorn. and saved his texts and closed his laptop, frowning a bit, for greater labor awaited him next, and he was not yet composed for it. Against his personal code of action, he had slept in a red shirt carelessly, and he felt that invidious subtraction of force that accompanies inevitably such disregard for cosmic propriety and leads to poor judgment both in poetry and in the war of life, where certainly color sucks away sensitivity. Dressed as clowns, thus in Morpheus's arms, sleeping fools multiply their harms. And foolishness here is a rich resource, he thought, reflecting on the bureaucrats who seek to keep the city down by force, predatory gangsters, scheming rats, networked against pressure from outside to recognize justice and the Constitution, to give up conspiracy, xenophobic pride, blackmail, bribery, theft, and pollution, to exile the chiseler, the fake, and the buffoon who manufacture credentials from trash. Grease the right palms. Thank you, cousin. And soon convert these shameless forgeries to cash, and smirk to think how the honest man's labor buys electricity for his well-connected neighbor. Growling bloodthirstily, 3 deadly wolves appear, greeting their master, emerging from his fit. 3 whom Cerberus would flee in fear, dire wolves indeed, as ever biscuit bit. And Cleghorn calls all 3 ferocious creatures and hauls them by the ears and roughly pets their shaggy coats, examining their features, claws, and fangs. And as each wolf gets his morning greeting, he comfortably reposes himself in a strategic, warlike position from which, no doubt, he fiercely proposes to tear and mangle all opposition. Thus, surrounded by 3 mighty dogs from hell, their master meditates and speaks a secret spell. Barricaded in eccentricity of a kind, alert to angel whisperings and curious voices fluting delicately essences of many marvelous things. He reaches toward a lost integrity and hears the ghosts of long lost harmony.
Wow, this is really spectacular. Really moving, spectacular. Wonderful.
Thank you, thank you. One more then, meeting in green light. In that parade of corpses, one turned to look at me. The green moonlight scorched her cadaverous face and burned it greenish pale and deathly white. Green fangs smirked familiarity, and a sudden spark lit up one dead eye as she hoarsely crooned, "Hey babe, it's me. You used to say speed kills. That's still a lie. What kills you, fast or slow, is that you die." Cold inside. But this wrecked specter awakening some sad sympathy, yet I croaked out in a stunned response to her. The alleyways and dungeons, I forget. For angels of sunlight dragged me out and wrapped me with jasmine and morning glory, and sweet dreams shifted my mind about to sacred miracles in a marvelous story. They gave me cool white wine and cantaloupe, and pride was driven out by mindless hope. So dogs do yap and howl in heaven then, she said, and stared vindictively at me, just as they do for burning devils when the cold moon shines upon the murderous sea. Perhaps, I said, but words one understands are ruled by a magic kept out of our hands, and whippoorwills disturbing song at night fades out as night hawks launch themselves for flight.
You know something, especially about that last verse when I say Haynes appears in Shakespearean Vogue, that's so close to something like Scorex and Caliban in The Tempest and Prospero's curse onto Scorex, and that, I don't know if you know that special bit from The Tempest, Caliban, methinks 1,000 humors in the air or something like that. Well, having said that.
Yeah, but it's a really amazing combination of emotions, performances, tragedy. You could actually give this poem and the previous one as well to somebody who is making good films, you know, and create images to go with the words or even without the words, and realize, you know, your poems into amazing images and performances as well. It's they are very visual. They lend themselves for characters. So it's even though it's just words, but you can see many things happening as you hear your voice or as you read by yourself. So I think it's very interesting also from that point of view. I like that type of poetry that makes you see things. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. The last question, one that I have a curiosity, personal curiosity, hope people forgive me. How do you live, you know, with this dual identity of being a teacher, a professor, and a poet as well? I think few people in this program today are actually affected by this question. You know, is it easy to be with these two sides of yourself?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's very nice, and maybe this is an indirect answer to your question, but as I look at the faces on the screen and I hear the voices and I recognize people who are devoted to literature and to working with poetry and the art of the word and the art of language and so forth, it's delightful to me, and I'm honored to be here with all of you. Whereas when I go to school, it's sort of like, you know, the fact that I write verse is not a very significant dimension of my activity, shall we say.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for being with us. It has been wonderful discovery for everybody here. And we hope to see you in our next event. I know that it's 10 in the morning in Laredo, and perhaps is not the best time, Friday morning. But you're welcome anytime to join us and give us a few poems. Okay.
Thank you. As I said, I'm honored. I really am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So a round of applause. Wonderful. So we are going to move on with one of our local poets from Bradford, Mussarat Rahman. She's a cultural activist. She has plenty of experience with different types of arts, starting being recently moving into, I would say, audiovisual poetry. We're going to see a little video of hers today, and also an audio with one of her poems. Unfortunately, she can't be here today. She was planning to be, and I said to her, Mussarat, please send us something. So she sent a couple of contributions, and I'm going to play them. And she's promised me that she will be here next month. In Twitter, we've been communicating today. We shared the invitation for the event, Robin and Robert in Twitter, and she was there as well, supporting our endeavors. So thank you very much, Mussarat, for these two contributions. The first one is a video that I'm trying to find. And here it is. It's called Freedom Fighter. Hang on a second. I forgot to say, let me see. I feel a bit clumsy today with technology. I apologize. Let me see.
Freedom fighter. I won't be broken by you, by no one. Not by society or the morons who think they set the rules. Rules were made to be broken, particularly by me. I will break every single one of your stupid rules, as I have no desire to be controlled by you.
Oh, here it is. So, Freedom Fighter is the poem called.
Freedom fighter. I won't be broken by you, by no one. Not by society or the morons who think they set the rules. Rules were made to be broken, particularly by me. I will break every single one of your stupid rules, as I have no desire to be controlled by you, you or you. I run with the wolves, the wild pack who run free, creating tracks that can only be followed by the fighters of freedom. Breaking rules and regulations, setting paths for freedom, for free will and necessity. For those who are outlandish, weird and wild, not scared of the dark. Instead, relish the challenge it brings, pushing for personal change by choosing something better than that was first present, to what is now presented, future freedom fighter.
Wonderful. That was Mussarat Rahman, Freedom Fighter. And now we're going to listen to another poem of Mussarat, of a different nature. It's only an audio, there is no video. Let me see if I can place it here. Sorry, I seem to be unable to play it. Yeah, I will leave it for later because I am experiencing problems with the sharing. I apologize for that. But it's a wonderful poem and we'll play it later. Okay, so thank you so much for that. Now it's time to introduce Maggie Hall. Maggie, who is in Australia. Good morning for you, Maggie.
Yes, good morning. Good evening. Yes.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you? I believe I'm reading something that came from the workshop, the translating workshop that I participated in. Yep. And I spent the time in the room, in Mike's room, and we did a lot of talking and to and fro, and so Mike made the decision that he was going to do a translation of music with his voice, and that I would do some visuals. And
Maggie,
apart from that, yep. Sorry, what am I not supposed to say anything?
Can I? No, I just wanted to say briefly. I wanted to give a little bit of context
for
those in the audience.
Right. Sorry.
No, you are supposed to talk. It's just that I thought I may as well introduce.
That's yours. Sorry.
When you started to talk about the rooms, I was in the room with Mike. People may think that you were in the same physical room, but you weren't.
Oh.
You were in our workshop called Founding Translation. Yeah. And this is the first one we run. It's called Founding Translation. And what we did was to create a number of rooms for discussion and translation of all types of translations with different texts in different languages. So we promised that after that workshop, that collaborative work, Mike and Maggie worked together, we promised that we would be publishing the outcome, the fruit of that joint effort by poets from different parts of the world. I think we all were from different parts of the world, effectively, each one of us. There was not one single person born in the same country, I remember. And yes, this is the first of the sharings, shall we say, the work of Maggie and the work of Mike. Okay, off you go.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Just that in the conversation, I think we both discovered some really interesting things. I think Maggie discovered the idea of translating from visual to verbal imagery into words and back again. And she also discovered that I love to sing, but I'm still slightly nervous about sharing this with the world. I mean, I think Maggie has more belief in this than I do, so I'm apologizing in advance if apology is needed. Sorry, Maggie.
You've got a beautiful voice.
Okay, Maggie, go on. Sorry to interrupt you, Maggie. Carry on.
So did you want me to play the film first, or read the?
Up to you.
Or do a read.
Your decision.
Maybe we'll play we'll play Mike's music first. Do you want me to try and do it from this end if you're having some trouble, Antonia, or?
I think that should be okay.
Okay, yeah? Great.
Yeah, I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to be okay. I'm going to share it now. Mike, be prepared. Yeah?
I've got a cushion.
Okay. I've heard it already. And I think we need more voices like yours in life. There we go. So I don't, let me see if I can control a little bit the sound, because it sounded very loud. Now it's better. Okay, off you go. Can you see my sharing now? Yes, you can. So here is Garcia Lorca performed by Mike Baynham and Maggie Hall in charge of the images. Yes, and you know, you also contributed to the translation, I believe. Okay.
El tiempo flotando como un velero, flotando como un velero. Nadie puede abrir semillas en el corazón del sueño, en el corazón del sueño. El sueño va sobre el tiempo flotando como un velero, flotando como un velero. Con tres heridas llegó, la del amor, la de la muerte, la de la vida. Con tres heridas viene, la de la vida, la del amor, la de la muerte. Con tres heridas yo, la de la vida, la de la muerte, la del amor. Con tres heridas llegó, la del amor, la de la muerte, la de la vida. Con tres heridas viene, la de la vida, la del amor, la de la muerte. Con tres heridas yo, la de la vida, la de la muerte, la del amor. Con tres heridas llegó, la del amor, la de la muerte, la de la vida. Con tres heridas viene, la de la vida, la del amor, la de la muerte. Con tres heridas yo, la de la vida, la de la muerte, la del amor. La de la muerte, la de la vida, la de la tres heridas viene, con tres heridas viene, la de la vida, la de la muerte, la de la muerte. Heridas yo, con tres heridas yo, la de la vida, la de la vida, la del amor, la de las heridas.
Con tres heridas llegas. Muy bien, precioso.
Thank you, Maggie. You encouraged me.
Thank you, Maggie. And thank you, Mike. I can't hear you, Maggie. You need to. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yes, well, it's not easy breaking through your fear and pushing through, and what a beautiful voice. That hope you do a lot more. Yes.
No, you got me started, Maggie. It's not going to stop.
There's no stopping now. No.
You wait.
I have so I have something to read. What I did was all of the works that we were given for the different translations. I used all of them and did a automatic translation for them all, and then recalibrated, I guess, in a translated the translation and put this together. So there may be some familiar lines, and here we go. I've got a son that plays like the moon. And to the north, the south moves west. They look, they see, they look unseen. Eyes grown old from all corners with tired screams. We see each other looking into the other's vision. Points between closed eyes. Face to face, lash to lash, the next breath. Between reflections of a concrete mirror, we look and walk to find mortality with eyes shut, even as it is blinding. I don't want to be seen as a lonely child carried under the sun by blue dreams, worn out by people as the bird to its prey. In search of wheat and water, the dove flew north, then south. He saw the sea was the sky. That night was morning. He watched the stars dew and the heat fall like snow. He watched as you moved with the wind, as your heart played each beat. He watched as you fell asleep by the shore, mistaken for a man. On top of a branch, the dove watched, without making a sound. For you are like a fish without water, and so he puts your dry lips to the sea, and in this heart your journey as a determined man will always be. I am a prisoner of life, poet of an ancient future in a world that nurtures hope. From this moment let us not worry, as this story is not of haste. To the landscape I see a sunset of which I shall not speak. Do not sign this disability to letters of hate. In a night's journey he is taken bearer of the throne, and through this fire your next gift is born. I will not, nor will I praise, a prisoner in life as we are awake. Hearts of hope go hand in hand, the song to write, a story to tell. I will not utter this night's sorrow, nor look beyond the next closed window. I will not, nor will I be, as time is my subject, and life is the key. With hope we left to meet again, and on the same path his mother asked, "Is this a trip to the Arabian Sea?" And with bittered smile he replied, "I am taking prisoners, passengers 1,000 nostalgic miles. Those who took refuge in this sacred chamber, each flower dressed by a garden of faith, and in this found peace they rested between the two poles from earth to sea. I come with a message, as each ruler from saint to saint. I bring a red apple from the sun. For the beggar I give jasmine flowers. To the mother I give another pearl, as I roam the streets and shout, "O Jew, Jew, Jew!" I give a galaxy to bring you a shaft of light, an intersection in the dark. On the bridge a hangman sits with eyes closed to guide you back to Babylon. A caravan came smiling with secrets of the wind as the branches shadowed the light. I take back the salt from my lips, breaking down walls that divide. And with tears from each cloud I shall tie your hearts with love, and with your eyes with each whisper I will fill each bucket with water for each thirsty mare. And as children sleep I will blow away the flies, and with each horse I caress will I place green grass for the cattle to thrive. To each wall I will plant a nail, and before each window recite a poem. And to each crow I give a pine for the snake to eat, the light of love, so that we shall all reconcile. No man can plant seeds in the heart of a dream, in the heart of a dream, fallen down to the air, to the air. Yesterday they fed on a bed before time, tomorrow they mourn. No man can place seeds in the heart of a dream, in the heart of a dream. A grown child crossed an old man's broken tongue. The old man's broken tongue stood still, and the dream was lost at sea, floating like flowers lost at sea. Still, no man could plant seeds in the heart of a dream, in the heart of a dream. And that's all.
That's wonderful. So sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no. I actually had to go to another. I didn't have the last one on the same page, so I had to go to another one.
Right.
I do have a couple of other translations, but they have nothing to do with the workshop. So maybe later on, if there's time, I'd love to read them. But such a pleasure. Oh, what a wonderful thing. It was a great workshop and inspired so many thoughts and ideas, and truly words are transforming in every way, and they can change thoughts and open minds and prevent great wars that perhaps never needed to be. So it was a pleasure to be part of that, and I just want to say thank you for having it there open and allowing me in.
To me, it's like collage translation. You've created a kind of amazing collage of those poems. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I have seen the video version of this text. Is that
crazy,
correct?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can show it next time if you want. Yeah,
that's okay. I'm happy with just reading it, so it can actually be heard. Yeah, but yeah, if there is time, I'd love to. I did actually, going from the introduction, I got this for my birthday, and I only opened it up a couple of weeks ago, and saw something in it after doing the Coleridge before, and I rewrote one of his sonnets, but I didn't change the words. I just changed the order of the sentence structure. So if I'd love to read that if there's a time later on after.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie. It's always such a great pleasure to have you here. And thank you for making the effort, waking up at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's what I love. It's no effort. Thank you, Antonio.
Okay, no, thank you. So yeah, we will be doing more workshops of found in translation as part of Transforming with Poetry, and we will be advertising them on Facebook and on Twitter, etc., so that poets and people who like language and words can join us and work together in collective creations. Whether they can be called translations or not doesn't matter that much, but it's a secret. Okay, well, thank you. We're going now to move on and see again our friend Robin Ouzman Hislop, and we have 3 poems from you today. They've been really successful in terms of the audience in Twitter. I've seen a lot of praise, especially for one of them, God's Word, which I think is a masterpiece of poem. So thank you, Robin, for being here. Which one would you like to start with? I can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. There we go. Robin, you need to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. So let's start with the mention that heard today, do Avery, and then God's Word in the final bit.
So sorry, did you say start with the dimension deterred today.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, these are all video poems, so that combine imagery with music. This one was written as a sort of bit out of frustration, really, with the urbanity of the world, and I was feeling a bit pissed off with it. So this was the outcome of that, perhaps. Yeah, shall we?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, by the way, we can do subtitles on this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dementia deterred today. Dementia deterred today. I met a man with a gun who went where the sky face was, then shot a hole in the sky where the face of God appeared, which dropped down dead. Next to me stood a dog. We went for a walk in the wood. All the people nodded and smiled. The world went up in flame. Everybody was up in flame. Next to me stood a dog. The people I met nodded, where the face of God appeared, which dropped down next to nobody, as the world went up in flame. Today I met nobody and everybody, who shot a gun, and the world smiled. We went for a walk in the wood, and nobody was to blame, and everybody was to blame, and nobody was the same, and everybody was the same. Dementia deterred today.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Really.
Wonderful poem. And the music goes very well with it. So the second poem is, how do you pronounce this? Aviary?
I think so. Ivory, yeah.
Ivory?
So.
Ivory?
No, it's Avery.
Avery.
Okay, yeah. So that's for song of birds, basically. This is where the imagery has been taken from Sheffield Library, which was showing this moving image on, and it has so that there is text in it, and it's about that text reflects a background of ecological crisis in the world, such as global warming, water shortages, and all these kind of problems. So I used that background imagery to combine it with this poem. Avery. In this scene, I could be just a pixel on a screen, a fractal, an algorithm simulated on a quantum computer and replayed in the year 5000 and something. Think that all the birds in the air were once dinosaurs. Down the footsteps of time, I walk in trees, plants, flung foliage, scattered bloom, berries, bracken, listening to their listening talk. Death in life, life in death, Before you came, after you're gone, we remain. Nothing remains but remaining. But isn't it true, I say, we sapiens once trod through forests 1,000 feet high, with the wild aves swarming as an aviary in our flowing hair.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Robin.
So this last poem, God's Word, a little to say about that. This poem originally appeared in my second book of poetry, Cartoon Molecules. Can you see that on the screen?
I'm going to share now. Press button. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So yes, there it is. So it appeared in that. So it's an old poem, really, because Cartoon Molecules appeared a few years ago, and then that poem was adapted to this book, Moon, Selected Audio Textual Poems, and this book combined poems with. Is this being shown on the screen, Tony?
I can make it look. I can make it share. Yeah.
So as I was saying, this book was originally audio textual poems, and the feature of this book was that it had, together with the text, the Q&R, so that you could cue in to the Q&R with your smartphone and then read the text. And that book was, also happily reviewed here by our friend Robert Haynes. He makes a few kind comments on my behalf for this book. And then this poem after that, after it appears there as the audio version, again, I take in the Sheffield Library the works of this artist, Flem, and because his imagery was particularly ironic, I thought it was actually reflecting on the pandemic, but I like the imagery and the kind of background illusion, shall we say, of the pandemic together with the nature of this poem. So I combined the audio text again with the video of these images, and I put music to it. So that's called, that's the poem that we're going to hear now, God's Word.
Yeah, okay.
There's no video, and there's no subtitles to this. Unfortunately, the subtitles wouldn't appear because of the credits.
Oh. Okay.
God's Word. Wind was the music, the motion, no meaning. Your eyes, 1,000 blind windows, the heart of an earth eternally leaked out of its own scenario by a beyond creation, leaving shattered brains from curveted, whooping redskins, which in it has no meaning. He wanted to gaze at music, the motion, the force out of the water, the heart-breaking beauty of wind dreamt of, completely naked, for every creature who seek their fill from walls stained with 1,000 blind preludes, our city and earth of eternally carbonized men as targets where God trims no maggot lonely to look the eye of singularity transhuman Jenner launches us into.
Impressive.
Well,
really cool. I mean, you don't really need the subtitles because it's such a clear, you know, and powerful poem that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you read it or listen to it. I think it's one of your best poems.
well, yeah. So I'm not sure whether the music seems to be very faint in the playing of it. I don't know, there's could have been more volume on that.
Yeah, that may be the quality of my connection, of the sound of the YouTube, but I can tell you that I was listening to it wonderfully.
Well, great.
It may be that I am broadcasting and then that has an impact. But then the recording in YouTube, because it's being done directly into my computer, it will be better quality actually. But thank you so much, Robin.
Oh,
wonderful as ever.
Great to be here.
And I think now we are going to move to Adil.
No, Manuel.
Adil.
Manuel.
Hello. Oh, Manuel. Sorry. Amigo Manuel, ¿cómo estás?
Olá, muito boa noite.
Boa noite.
Greetings from Portugal and from Algarve.
Lovely to hear you, Manuel.
It's a pleasure, and once again, thank you very much for inviting me.
Our pleasure.
You're always welcome, Manuel.
A couple of times we had some troubles on the connection, but today I think it sounds beautifully, and thank you very much. For it has been amazing to know poets from all over the world and to be part of this amazing brotherhood and partnership of feelings. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's move for it. It was quite interesting because at the beginning of this evening, well, Portugal here evening, I was quite impressed because one of the first poets participating referred that this link to philosophy. That was my very meteoritic study at the University of Lisbon, the classic University of Lisbon, as philosophy, which I dropped after 6 months. All my friends were furious and my teachers were furious, and I think it was the best thing I've done in my whole life from writing poetry since I was 13 years old. To drop university was amazing and traced and shaped my future. Then I started publishing, I started translating, and here I am today with all of you. Drop the university and be poetry within yourself. And of course, what I've just been doing all these years is to, I wanted to be a great poet, talking about lots of things with many words. And nowadays, after 32 books, and 22 translations, I've discovered that just drop and go back to the basics, which is language, and unite yourself with nature. Muito raramente olho para as pedras e vejo pedras. Nas mais das vezes vejo lírios, pássaros e, quando retangulares, cartas ainda por escrever. Há nelas sinais de veias e de nervuras, países ausentes de fronteiras quando, em viagem, vistos do céu. Muito raramente, mas mesmo muito raramente, ignoro o rutilar do sol sobre as pedras, pois vejo nelas o que resta dos deuses. Daí a sagrada nudez, pois em cada recesso do seu corpo vejo a boca a soltar a amplitude das sombras. Hoje fui fulminado pela cegueira mais atrás. Olhei para uma pedra e não vi nada. Olhei-me de alto a baixo, um ser inerme, ainda não habitado pela voz. En muy pocas ocasiones miro las piedras y veo piedras. La mayoría de las veces veo lirios, pájaros, y cuando son rectangulares, cartas aún por escribir. Hay en ellos signos de venas y de nervaduras, países ausentes de fronteras, cuando, viajando, se ven desde el cielo. Muy pocas veces, pero muy pocas mismo. Ignoro el resplandecer del sol sobre las piedras, porque ve en ellas lo que quedan los dioses. Y allí su sagrado mutismo, porque en cada hueco de sus cuerpos veo la boca deletreando la amplitud de las sombras. Hoy me ha sorprendido la ceguera más atroz. He mirado una piedra y no he visto nada. Miré de arriba a abajo. Un ser inerte, aún no habitado por la voz.
On very few occasions, I look at stones and see stones. Most times I see lilies, birds, and when they are rectangular, letters still to be written. In them, I find signs of veins and nerves, countries lacking borders. When journeying, they are seen from the sky. On very few occasions, but rarely all the same, I ignore the splendor of the sun on stones because I see them in the remains of gods. From thence their sacred muteness, because in each cavity of their bodies, I see a mouth spelling out the breadth of shadows. Today, an even more horrific blindness has surprised me. I looked at a stone and saw nothing. I looked myself up and down, an inert being, still not yet inhabited by a voice.
Dispo-me do poema. Como as cobras da pele se desfazem, rasto de seda transparente, levemente, acariciada pelo sopro das estrelas. São esses sopros que me chamam de longe, por tudo saber das marés devorando as falésias, ou das aves furtivas riscando as fugas sobre a ardósia da terra. Dispo do poema e ostento da alma, sulcos abertos à força de não morrer enquanto vivo, à força de galopar pela poeira menstruada, sangrando os valados dos caminhos. Tudo levantado com força dos braços e a argamassa vertical da taipa dos dias e os moinhos amputados de velas no alto do seu cerro. Dispo-me do poema. Agora, corpo estendido, como sinais da terra a que a tanto tenho dado e que tanto me despreza, mas sou, hoje, como sempre, o poeta que não se deixa vergar por albergar em mim a força que me indica o caminho de regresso à única verdade democrática, a brancura de uma folha suspensa no silêncio. Me desnudo del poema, como se deshacen las serpientes de la piel. Un rastro de seda transparente, ligera, acariciada por el aliento de las estrellas. Son esos soplos los que me llaman desde lejos, por saber que las mareas que devoran los acantilados o de los pájaros furtivos trazando las huidas sobre la pisaje de la tierra. Me desposo del poema y llevo del alma surcos abiertos por la fuerza de no morir mientras vivo, por la fuerza de galopar por el polvo menstruado sangrando en los valados de los caminos. Todo levantado con la fuerza de los brazos y la argamasa vertical de la tapilla de los días y los molinos ampotados de velas en el alto de su colina. Me quito del poema. Ahora mi cuerpo desplegado como signos a la tierra a la que tanto he dado y que tanto me desprecia, pero soy hoy como siempre el poeta que no se deja de desbloquear por albergar en mí la fuerza que me muestra el camino de la vuelta a la única verdad democrática, la blancura de una hoja suspendida en el silencio.
I stripped myself naked from the poem, the way snakes shed their skin, a scrap of transparent skin, light stroked by star breath. It is these gusts of wind which call me from far off to learn more about these tides which tear apart the cliffs, or about those furtive birds tracing flight paths over the chalk of the earth. I dispense with the poem and carry it from my soul, furrows laid open by the effort of not dying, while I live with the effort of galloping through menstrual dust, bleeding on the roadside ditches, everything lifted up by the arm's effort, and the vertical mortar of the wall's days and the windmills on top of hills, their sails ripped off. I get rid of the poem. Now my body unfolded like signs of the earth I have given so much to and who so despises me. But I am now, as always, the poet who doesn't allow himself to be defeated, just a husband in me, the strength that shows me the way back to the only democratic truth, the whiteness of a leaf suspended in silence.
Como tudo que é frágil, cresce a idade lentamente. Débil é o tempo, com o seu corpo acutilante e delgado, gravando no rosto os sulcos, como a argila gretada, no pico do calor, nos recorda um ato de delírio, de um lírio que sarou de desabrochaço embriagado de alegria espraiando os roxos e heréticos braços nus. Como tudo que é frágil, atravesso os pomares dos poemas suspensos, para que o céu fique mais perto, dar versos como as árvores dão abrolhos, flores, frutos e pomos, como tudo que é frágil. Há uma tarde por inteiro na alma de um poeta. Nem mais, pois é por isso mesmo que somos o que somos, o avesso da monotonia e da entorpecida luz. Como todo lo que es frágil, la edad crece lentamente. El tiempo es débil con su cuerpo afilado y delgado, esculpiendo los surcos del rostro, como arcilla agrietada en la cúspide del calor nos recuerda un acto de delirio, de un lirio, floreciendo serotónicamente ebrio de alegría, extendiendo la púrpura, heréticos brazos desnudos. Como todo lo que es frágil, atravieso los huertos de poemas suspendidos, para que el cielo esté más cerca dando versos como los árboles dan abetos, flores, frutos y capullos, como todo lo que es frágil. Hay una tarde enteramente en el alma de un poeta, no más, porque precisamente por eso somos lo que somos, el reverso de la monotonía y la luz apagada.
Like everything fragile, age grows slowly. Time is weak with its slender, sharp-edged body carving furrows on the face, like clay in the cusp of heat. Reminds us of a delirious act, of a lily serotonin flowering, drunk with joy stretching out its purple, heretical, naked arms. Like everything fragile, I cross orchards of hanging poems, just so the sky will be closer. Yielding verses as trees yield bees, flowers, fruit, and cocoons. Like everything fragile, an afternoon passes entirely in the poet's soul. No more, because this is precisely why we are what we are, the very opposite of monotony and quenched light.
Apenas mais corpo, verso apenas. Pólen de fogo, cuidado do olhar, o aroma da salsa parrilha pelos campos. Solo cuerpo más. Solo verso. Pólen de fuego, con la edad de la mirada, o el aroma de la salsa parrilla a través de los campos.
Just one more body, just one verse, fire pollen, the age of a glance, or the perfume of sarsaparilla across the fields. Wonderful, Manuel.
Muitíssimo obrigado, muito boa noite.
Maravilloso.
Muito obrigado, amigo Manuel.
Thank you very much for your invitation once again. Thank you.
Esta es tu casa. Esta es tu casa.
Sí.
Uma casa portuguesa com certeza.
Não, uma casa global.
Uma casa global é portuguesa também.
Muito obrigado.
Un abrazo.
Obrigado,
Muy bien. Bueno, Mike, we need to decide. Yeah.
I think we should go for it.
Okay. Adil, are you there?
I think so.
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Hello and welcome, Adil.
Hello, thank you for having me.
That's fantastic. We missed you the other day so much, but now you're here.
So it was a technical problem, so I apologize.
Wonderful. So Adil and I have been working on a translation of a poem of his. It's a wonderful experience having the poet to work with. Wonderful, and you have to be careful because obviously if the poet is not with you, then you can change all sorts of things and everything goes the way you want it, but it's a dialogue. So we had a dialogue. How was it for you, Adil?
It was amazing. It was a great experience, especially working with you, Mike. I enjoyed that because you listen very well and you are suspicious about finding the very meaning or the accurate translation of each word. And I also want to thank you for your patience.
My pleasure. And for you were very generous with all the terrible mistakes I made in my first version.
Oh, no.
Corrected them.
I know that you are very well translating from classical Arabic to English. But in dialect, in Darija, that's natural because there is some differences between in the forms, and also some words have other meaning not like in classical Arabic.
Yeah.
So I did understand all your mistakes, if you allow me. But I also would like to thank you for your patience, because you were very generous, and you took all my remarks with great spirit. So thank you.
Thank you. Just to explain, Adil is a Zajal poet. Zajal is a poetic form which goes back to the 11th century, 10th century. And
Yes,
it's not in
yes,
classical Arabic, but in dialect Arabic.
in dialect. It started in Spain, in Andalusia, when
So it's really
when
special.
Arabs were there. So it was the very first poetry written in Darija, because before Zajal, all the Arab world did know just one type of poetry. It was the poetry written with classical Arabic, with strict forms of rhythm and rhymes, etc. But we can say the revolution was in Spain, in the Arabic Spain then. And it was, so some historians say that it was started with Ibn Qazman, who is the first one to publish a whole book of Zajal. And after this kind of poetry written with dialects spread into the whole Islamic and Arabic world. So this is my ancestor.
Ibn Qazman, great, wonderful. Okay, let's go. So we've decided the poem is quite long, so we're going to read sections. So first of all, Adil will read the Arabic, I'll read the English, and we'll continue in that way, and hopefully.
Mike, are you going to share them from your end?
Sorry, I'm so carried away. I'm not even thinking about sharing. So
yes,
share screen.
Okay.
See it?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. نار طفوها دموعها، كلام هايم في الكلام، سر يغسل كفنه، قبر ضاحك، شجرة غارسة عروقها في الليل وفاتحة عينيها على عالم حمق، روح جامدة كينقش فيها نحات بمنشار مصدي، مدينة كتشطح عريان قبل تموت، وانا مسحور بالقمرة الدايبة في لحية جدي، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عيني تصور محروقين.
Words wander, lost in with words. A secret rinses its shroud, the grave laughing. The cultivated tree is rooted in night and opens its eyes on a foolish world. A frozen soul engraved by a sculptor with a rusty saw. A city dances naked in the face of death. And I am bewitched by the melting moon on my grandfather's beard. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
الدم يقول النار عاقرة، الضوء مخصي، الحطب بارد، ما يدوم غير الكلام الحارق، الحرف المصلوب قبلة العاشق.
Blood speaks. Fire is sterile, light gelded, the kindling is cold. What endures except the burning word, the crucified letter? Kiss, turn towards the qibla of a lover.
كلام هايج في الكلام، غول شعل سيجار، غيلان صغار يرجموا القصيدة، شاعر فقع عينيه، نار طفوها دموعها، خطوات مصلوخة، طريق مالحة، أنا ليل ميت، انتي قمرة نايحة، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عينية تصور محروقين.
Words roaming with words, a ghoul puffing a cigar like little goblins stoning the poet. The poet, his eyes out, fire quenched by his tears, flayed footsteps, path sown with salt. I am a dead night, you, a weeping moon. At my feet, a blue journey, in my eyes, charred photos.
الجرح يقول قطع لي الدين اللي شادة في يدك قبل ما تكتب. الكتابة روح النار، روحك هي الحطب. في رجلي صفر زرق، في عينية تصور محروقين.
The wound says, cut off both hands who closed your hand before you wrote. Fire is the soul of writing. Your soul is its kindling. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
ليل الحمر يهرق في خاطري حكايته على دوالي سكرانة، على ميزان بكم، على كرسي واقف، على دخان هرس الصورة في مرايته، على ليل بيض معلق من رجليه بحبل النور.
Red night pours out its story in my mind concerning the drunken vines, concerning your dumbstruck scales, concerning my upright chair, how smoke broke the image in its mirror, about a white knight hung by its feet in the snare of light.
شمس جرحها جوع النهار، شعاعها مكسور، شمس كبيرة كبر حتى من فكرة النور، شمس بعيدة يمكن جات من حلم غدة، يمكن من الملح، ملح البارح، شمس هنا في خاطري تتلاوح، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عينية تصور محروقين.
The sun's wound is the day's hunger, its rays shattered, the great sun, bigger still than the idea of light, far away sun. Maybe it came from the dream of tomorrow, maybe from salt, the salt of yesterday. The sun here fluctuates in my mind. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
وردة نابتة وسط دخان، دخان يغسل وجه المدينة، مدينة فايقة من حلم محروق، الحلم اللي دبل في بال الشوك، الشوك خلاه شعري في طريقه للشعر، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عيني تصاور محروقين.
Rose bushes in the smoke, smoke washing a city's face, the city wide awake from its burning dream, the dream that fades in the thorn's mind, the thorn left by my poem on the road to the poem. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
كلمة غريبة، فرحة مصلوبة، صباح مكحل عينيه، طوير كاين تفريشه، قصيدة معطوبة، فكرة كتقلب على راس في ورقة حشمانة من شيبها، الكلام على غفلة أرضع حليبها، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عيني تصور محروقين.
Strange word, happiness crucified, morning's eyes anointed with kohl. The bird pulls out its feathers, the poem wrecked, thought in search of a head, on a page ashamed of its whiteness. The word, out of carelessness, sucks her milk. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
السكات تهرس في طريقي، خطواتي تخاوات مع الدم، سالت الحياة من كلام مجروح، طريق ما تشبع، الفجر سبح، لا عين شافت، لا قلب رجع.
A crushing silence on my path, my footsteps fraternized with blood, life shedding from the wounded word its insatiable path. Dawn says in praise, no eye saw it, no heart returned.
كلمة حلم بها الكاس، هرقها العطش وشربها الفجر، الفجر من ديما عطشان أوقاته، الفجر من اللي تكب في كاس الفوضى، صلات لخيالها في المراية وهرقاته.
A word, the cup dreamed in it, poured by thirst and drunk by the dawn, the moment of dawn. The moments of dawn are thirsty forever, the dawn when someone pours into the cup of chaos, the chaos prays to its ghost in the mirror and spills it.
الزمان يسيل من بين صباعي وصلاتي مسكونة بالريح، كل السماوات تحت رجلي وقصايدي تسبيح.
Time flows away through my fingers and my prayer is haunted by the wind, all the skies beneath my foot, and my poem, a praise song.
الصباحات في عيني فاكية والليالي صيام، إلى فاقت في القصيدة الوطان المنافي تنام، في رجلي صفر زرق في عيني تصاور محروقين.
Mornings in my eyes became fruit and my night fasting. Whenever the homelands wake up in the poem, the exiles sleep. At my feet, a blue journey. In my eyes, charred photos.
نسر ياكل جنحيه، وردة ترقص في راسي، دوخة تتهرس في الدروج، جوع ياكل راسه وتجري به الطريق، صفر عريان، سلوم طالع في سالف فكرة يتيمة، فجر سكران بشوقه يغني ويدي هاربة مني، كيف تهرب الأوقات من الحساب وتتخبى في كتاب.
The vulture eats its wing, the rose dances in my head, vertigo crushed on the steps. Hunger eats its head and runs along the path with it. A naked journey, ladder hanging on the locks of an orphan thought. Dawn sick with desire, singing, and my hand fleeing from me, as moments flee from being counted and hide away in a book. Sorry.
ومن بعد كمامة تاكل من تبل البلاد، جيفة زغرت، شمس سايلة على خط النهار، غراب ما عرفش يدفن خوه، فراشة جمد جناوحها ضو كاذب، قهوة مات في عينيها النعاس، معنى عرج منسي في دار العجزة، موت بيض يسرق فكرة اللون من عينيه ويبدلها بالعمى، في قلبي الخضر تهرس الماء وتجبر الشعر.
And after, the muzzle eats straw from the village, the ululations of the dead beast, the sun flowing over the day's cheek. The crow doesn't know how to bury its brother. A butterfly's wings freeze in the deceitful light. Sleep dies in the eyes of coffee. A lame meaning forgotten in an old people's home. White death steals the thought of color from its eyes and turns it blind. In my green heart, the water breaks, restoring poetry.
كلام ساكت في الكلام، رمانة تشهق وهي تشوف فكرة مذبوحة، رب مربع يديه والعالم ناكر طبيعته، دم الفكرة وشهقة الرمان، سناب الخضرة ترسم سماوات في راسي وتنسى الطيور، ترسم روضة منسية هجرتها القبور، في رجلي صفر زرق في عيني تصاور محروقين.
Word silent on word, the pomegranate weeps and sees a slaughtered thought, the Lord folds his hands. And the world denies its own nature, the blood of an idea and the pomegranate's tears. Green ears of wheat sketch skies in my head and forget the birds, sketch a forgotten cemetery abandoned by the graves. And my feet, a blue journey, in my eyes, charred photos.
زمان مسافر في الزمان، مسمار معلق في ظل طربوش، حلم هارب من فراش بارد، مراية حرقاتها صورة الموت، فكرة حاضنة على قلوب من الزاج، ريح تتعطر بخاطر شجرة وتفضح سر الطير الحر، جناوح تخزن الريح وتفرقها على أيام يتيمة، وانتي يا كلمتي يا المسافرة ديما، كافيك طرف من خبز المعنى اليابس وكاس من دم الليل.
Time travels in time, nail hung in a hat's shade, a dream running away from a cold bed, a mirror burnt with the image of death, a thought incubating hearts of glass, wind that trembles in the tree's mind and exposes the secret of the bird's freedom. Wings store up the wind and give it away to orphaned days, and you, O words of mine, always traveling, satisfied with a crust of bread, with its dried up meaning of a crust of bread and a glass of night's blood.
ظلام سايح على وجه الورقة، صورة تغرق في قطرة دم، ربيع واحل في حلق العام، موجة تكفن روحها، قصيدة تسطر مكتابها في لوحها، وانا المسكون بالرجوع، الساكن في الصفر، في رجلي صفر زرق، في عينيا صفر زرق.
Darkness, a traveler on the face of the page, image that drowns in a drop of blood, spring stuck in the year's throat, a wave shrouds its soul, a poem drafting its destiny on its slate, and I am haunted by returning, a dweller in the journey, at my feet a blue journey, in my eyes a blue journey.
شهقة مدلية في الخوا، دمعة طايرة بلا جناوح، بلا سما، إله ساجد للقصيدة مادة بيديها ساروت، حكاية طافية، ضوء مهروق في خيال الكاس، وليلة في جناحي بلا صباح، اختار فيها رب الشعر يرتاح.
A gasp dangling in the void, tears flying without wings, without sky, a prostrate God before a poem that holds a key in its hands, a floating story, light poured in the cup's imagination, and the light of my wing, and the night in my wing with no morning. Within the God of poetry, I chose to rest in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Adil, when will we see you again? Are you going to join us next month? We have another Transforming with Poetry, I believe, on the 10th of December, which will be the last of this year. So I hope Adil and many of you can join us again.
It's an honor
welcome,
for
Adil.
me. Thank you, thank you. It's an honor for me.
Fantastic. It will be a great honor for us, brother.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Bueno,
how did you like the idea of alternating the parts of the poem? Did that work, or did it kind of interrupt it for you? How did you feel the audience? We tried this as an experiment.
Yeah. Are you asking me, Mike?
No, I'm thinking about audience more than us. Any reaction? Would you have preferred to hear the whole poem in one go, or do you like the alternation between the Arabic and the English?
I like it like that.
It's nice broken up, but it does also affect the following and the immersion of experiencing it. It's very it cuts into that element of the experience of an audience, so it works really well, but at the same time your emotions and your connection is broken, and so you don't really, well, that's just my, that's just my, in both the original language and the translation, because they're both beautiful in their own ways, and listening to the language, the origin of the language, I think would be more powerful if it was read all the way through.
Okay, well, we'll try it next time. We'll try it a different way.
We also had interesting discussions about what should go first, whether the English or the Spanish, or in this case, the Arabic. And I'm always in favor of doing the other way around. I prefer to listen to the language I understand and then listen to the other language, but Mike prefers the other way. I think both are acceptable, but we always have this discussion.
We're all different.
Thank goodness.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adil. Salam alaikum. So I think it's my turn now.
Yeah.
So,
Shall I introduce you? Do you need to introduce me, Antonio?
No, it's okay. I'm fine, thank you. I'm just gonna read a collection of poems that I had there for, you know, I didn't know when to read them, to be honest. One of them, I've never read it before, but they are very brief poems. So pay attention, because when you think you get it into the subject, they finish, yeah? And then I'll play a video, because I have so many videos, and, you know, I also think that is a good idea to show some of them. So some of these poems are in Spanish, some of them are in English. First one is called La Liminalidad. Can you see the screen? The text? Yeah. La liminalidad, ese fino umbral que une lo que fue y lo que no pudo ser, lo que no debía pasar y lo que tú y yo quisimos. Ese lugar condicionado, ínfimo, que en cuestión de horas se expandió a velocidad de queroseno, ahora un umbral de miles de millas cuadradas que grita enorme, que hasta se ve desde el espacio, pero que sigue siendo demasiado íntimo para sacarlo en Facebook. Another one, thank you. The glass of the mirror. I watch the surface of the glass of the mirror. I see me, but it's her lurking as I examine my paternal expression and lack of symmetry with a candid, neat smile that explains my dreams. She hides behind the mirror. Kiss the glass, bodily moist, or break the glass, spitting roses. And then this is one that I wrote almost immediately after a surreal experience of walking with my wife in a street in in Kyoto. Yeah. And I felt kind of overwhelmed by the amount of adverts that I could see in English and other languages, and also by the that I could understand. So all this came as a result of a sort of hangover after this strange, bizarre experience. It's called On Your Brands. On Your Brands. Dear customers, on your brands, Get Set, Bathing Ape, SoftBank, Nice, Parking Donuts, Model Gums, US Surplus, Final Price, Apple, Pronto, Basic Bridal, Life Insurance Game, Cleantopia, Mr. Youngman, Go Sale, go, 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 go. I don't want a fat partner. We have English menu. Cheese Tart, Regal Shoes, Durex Condom, Hydroid, Pronto, Basic Bridal, Life Insurance Game, Wannabe, Safe Lady, Go, Sale, go, 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 Google Maps, Find My Way, Give Me Netflix, Sober, Waterstones, Makes You Clever, Gin Smarter, Jesus, Pronto, Basic Bridal, Life Insurance Game, Pain Free, Bright Baby, Go, Sale. I have to say that my son, who is 6 years old, is pissing himself behind me. Tom, stop laughing. This is why I have this background with with a spaceship because it is a circus behind me, believe me.
So there are aliens. Are there aliens attacking your spaceship, Antonio?
They are not aliens. They are not aliens.
Familiars.
Okay, I hope you liked it. This poem is a different type of lyricism, believe it or not. You know. And then I'm going to play, now that we are in autumn, I'm going to play one of my videos. Let me see if I can share properly, stop share, and then share again. And it's called Autumn Fascination. I got it in Spanish and in English. Let me see. I'll play it first in English because it's a language that most of you follow best. And then I'll do it in Spanish, but it's not a straight translation, yeah? Although, you know, when I was writing one, the other kept influencing the first one. And I have to say that I cannot remember which one I wrote first. But this is recorded sometime 1 year ago in a wood next to where we live. Okay, so here we are, Autumn Fascination. Autumn Fascination. Green on the siege, efficient blowing that pushed me to an end of simultaneous leaps, of seasons of perfected assonance, now around the hiding sun, a brown agony. Scaffolding made of arteries, transporting gravity to the top. The fall of the Roman Empire or the British was harsher, but not neater. When you try through your rustling to talk to me about the time that I said to you with my steps, I find it very sweet and useless. Why does your voice follow me, but you stay behind stranded? How can a loop be so straight? What are you but a new form of life, a sign that defeat in the natural world is always relative? Today you are masking the ground where I keep dragging my roots in contempt for the fallen, and despite the appearances, I still live in a constant state of fascination. Okay. You can see it's very dangerous to share things nowadays in YouTube in Zoom, because then people can see, you know, what type of videos you get to.
I like talking about politics.
What type of videos you get to see. And the same poem in Spanish, very similar images. I'll play it now. I think you can all see it, yeah? Can you see the image of the poem? Yeah. This is, by the way, played in Spanish, but in this instance, I use my vernacular Spanish accent, which is different to the one I used when I read the first poem. This is how Spanish sound in Lorca, in my homeland. Fascinación de otoño. Un cerco fijado en torno al verdor, efectivo soplo que me empuja a un fin de labios simultáneos, de estaciones que corrigen asonancia, agonía marrón. Arterias como andamios que transportan la gravedad a lo alto. Más dura fue la caída del Imperio Romano o del británico, pero no más limpia. Cuando intentas con tus chasquidos hablarme tú del tiempo que yo te marco con mis pisadas, me parece todo tan dulce e inútil. Dime por qué me sigue tu voz si tú te vas quedando atrás. ¿Cómo puede ser un bucle tan recto? ¿Qué eres sino una nueva forma de vida, una señal de que la derrota en el mundo natural es siempre, siempre relativa, en días como este enmascaras la tierra por la que arrastro con orgullo mis raíces. En fin, a pesar de las apariencias, continúo viviendo en un estado constante de fascinación. Okay. And then a last, very last poem, very brief. It's something a bit strange and surreal that I wrote some years ago and I never read in this event. And it's a very, very short poem. Let me see. It's about a cow. Mm. And let me see. I'll share the text. La vaca. Sueña la vaca con su propia vía láctea, con su prado dormido de galaxias próximas y agujeros blancos. Sueña la vaca. And that's it. That's everything for me today, but we still have a little bit of time, perhaps. Thank you. If somebody wants to have a little bit of a jam session before we go to bed or before we go to work, it depends on what country you are in. Maggie, you said that you wanted to share another one.
Well, I just wanted to read one of Shakespeare's sonnets and then how I changed it. But if you don't want me to do that, I could do I guess it's a song, sort of like a song, but it's different. So
is your choice. Is your choice.
Okay, well, I'll stick with Shakespeare because the other one's maybe a bit long.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from his sonnets, and I think it's sonnet 153. I'm not exactly sure actually. This one. So this is Shakespeare. In the old age, black was not counted fair, or if it were, it bore not beauty's name. But now is black beauty's successive heir, and beauty slandered with a bastard shame. For since each hand hath put on nature's power, fairing the foul with art's false borrowed face, sweet beauty hath no name, no holy bower, but is profaned if not lives in disgrace. Therefore my mistress' brows are raven black, her eyes so suited, and they mourners seem at such who, not born fair, no beauty lack, slandering creation with a false esteem, yet so they mourn, becoming of their woe, that every tongue says beauty should look so. And I've rearranged the lines. I could be wrong, but in early Greek language, when with the first plays, I believe that the semicolon is actually a question mark. So our semicolon is a question mark in Greek. And also the way that they would be read or performed from the reading was more what felt right, the right way to read it, as opposed to how it was written. And I think there are a few other differences. But anyway, I've applied certain things to it. Okay. In the old age, black was not counted fair, but now is black beauty's successive heir, fairing the foul with art's false borrowed face, but is profaned if not, lives in disgrace. Or if it were, it bore not beauty's name, and beauty slandered with a bastard shame. Her eyes so suited, and they mourners seem, slandering creation with a false esteem. For since each hand hath put on nature's power, yet so they mourn, becoming of their woe, that every tongue says beauty should look so. At such who, not born fair, no beauty lack, therefore my mistress' brows are raven black. Yeah. So, really want to explain. I do have one quick one that I wrote. This is, I think, more than anything else, just maybe so you can know me a bit more. Have you ever made love on a train? I've got a blue cradle and its name is Sin. St. Mary's Hospital, May 14, 1971. Spoke the nurse to my admitted mother. Tim Brooke Taylor's wife just left this room with her newborn child. 6 hours later, my mother, Ruth, gave birth to a little baby girl. The woman in the bed next to her kept repeating, "She knows, you know, she plays a piano accordion, the Jamaican who had a baby called Cleopatra." At 5, my mother took me to Sadler's Wells to see my first ballet, Coppelia. It was a home performance, and we lived not far away. She also took me to the Children's Theatre in Soho, London. In one part of the play, there was a prince that did a silly walk. John Cleese of Fawlty Towers and a Monty Python started to laugh out loud while slapping his knee, according to my mother. He was seated next to us with his daughter, her name Cynthia. Her mother, Connie Booth. She also was born in 1971. I wonder if she was a St. Mary's baby. Cartography. A map to your next advent. Mother and son falling oranges into marmalade. Mastermind without black and white pegs. Imagination and ability, a record on continuous play. Your loving gives me a thrill. I have a black wall with white curtains. The Goodies had a giant white cat. On Halloween, he turns into a bat. I have a black wall with cracked windows. The best things in life are free. There is a pink chair on my balcony that used to be coloured red. It sits next to the side sculpture of my Mona Lisa head. On the fridge is a felt alphabet. The magnetic tape keeps falling off letter B. To the right side, upper left on my painted wall, a painting of that tree on Red Hill. When I'm gone, you can give it to the birds and bees. I won't need money, 'cause I'll be dead. Singing in the rain, laughing at the clouds, the sun's in my heart, and I'm ready for love. Okay. Thank you.
Lovely. St. Mary's
yeah.
Hospital, London. St. Mary's Hospital in London.
I was, yep.
That's where my two boys were
Paddington.
born. St. Mary's Paddington.
Yeah.
Same
Lovely.
hospital.
It's a bit in some, yeah. Yeah, it's a special place, isn't it? I think many people of that, yeah. The Royal Hospital, they call it. So, yeah.
The small
My
world.
mum, it certainly is. A beautiful world.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I think we have got to the end of today's event. Thank you, everybody, for being there. I will be sharing this in YouTube somehow very soon. And I hope to see you all on the 10th of December or in the new year. Probably it's going to be a mixture of special founding translation events and open mic and other events with more specialized focus on a poet, on a theme. So I think Mike will keep this mixture of events, yeah? And thank you very much, Robert. Robert, it was a pleasure. Yeah. Okay, lots of loves from everybody to everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Mwah.
Bye.